Fast food workers. What's an item people should absolutely stop ordering from your restaurant? Story 1. Used to work at Panda Express. No real complaints about the ingredients and food prep, but don't buy any shrimp entrees if you actually want a full meal. They purposely use a smaller serving spoon to make it appear you're getting a lot of food. I believe it was 6 shrimps per serving. Max was the policy. Replies, can confirm, I ordered this last week and I was like, seriously, 6 shrimp. I paid extra. Story 2. Worked at a small dive bar chain whose gimmick is that everything on the menu is $5.65 CAD, the nachos, for the same price as a burger or pasta or literally anything else on the menu. You got a fistful of cheese on top of some chips. They also sucked to make. We would heat them up on the plate we served them on, and then would put the burning hot plate on top of a cold one to serve. So many unnecessary burns, and so many extra dishes. Story 3. I never worked fast food, but figured this was worth relaying. When my father-in-law was diagnosed with lung cancer and started chemo, the hospital gave him a list of things to avoid because his immune system was compromised. A lot of stuff was obvious, like soft-serve ice cream and anything from a soda fountain, because the nozzles on both don't always get cleaned that well. Some stuff made sense but wasn't obvious until I read it, like don't get slices of pizza because they have been sitting out, and when getting a whole pizza, ask for it unsliced, because the pizza cutter only gets washed at the end of the day and sits on the counter going through every pizza. But the one that surprised me the most was, don't get Jamba Juice. It was the only company called out by name. And it wasn't, don't get certain things from there, it was just, don't get Jamba Juice, period. Makes me wonder how gross their stuff must get. Replies, I work at a Jamba. I can only think that our blender bases aren't cleaned but once a day and only with water. That, and our smoothies, are based on fountain stands that get cleaned every 3 days or so depending on how busy it is. Otherwise, we're really strict on glove changes, contamination, and cleaning out the blenders. Story 4. Culver's worker here. We're usually actually kinda serious about making everything fresh, but crispy chicken sandwiches are usually the things that are around 30 minutes here. If we are talking annoyance to make, stop ordering gluten-free buns unless you have an allergy. We need to get all new condiments specifically for your order. Replies, when I was a lot younger, 10 years old, Culver's was the best. I would order the exact same cookie cutter meal every single time. Kids' chicken tenders, or Butterburger if I was feeling adventurous, with Culver's root beer to drink. Culver's root beer is to this day the best root beer in existence. I would then get the flavor of the day with cookie dough with the scoop coupon. I am still sad 6+ years after moving to the East Coast. Culver's, I miss you. Story 5. I used to work at a movie theater. Unless things have changed, never order the hot dogs. They sit there for a long time. Butter most likely gets removed from the pumps and put back in jugs for the next day, so don't do that. And stay away from pickles. Story 6. I worked in a local coffee and donut shop and nobody ever cleaned the soda machines. They were so gross the first time I cleaned them. I asked if anyone knew how to do it and nobody knew. Nobody had ever done it. Edit. Lots of people are wondering why there is soda, because I live in a highly Mormon-populated area and they can't drink coffee. And apparently a lot of people like Mountain Dew with their apple fritters. And apparently Mormons can drink Mountain Dew. Replies, briefly worked in a Chinese restaurant. I was told that by law in our state, the nozzles were supposed to be cleaned somewhere around once every 2 weeks. The owners went out of their way to clean them twice a week to make sure they were properly sanitized for their customers. I'd always heard horror stories about how working in a restaurant would make me never want to eat out again, but working there made me feel much better about ordering Chinese takeout. Obviously, YMV, but it was a super positive experience, and I hope the sisters who own the place are doing well. Story 7. Don't get decaf coffee at Burger King. Maybe this was just the one I worked at, but we didn't actually brew any decaf. Whenever someone ordered it, my manager would just have me water down the regular coffee. Replies, worked at Burger King for 2 years, and we always had decaf coffee. It was in orange bags. Your store was asking for a lawsuit. Story 8. Okay, so not fast food, but I worked at Fuddruckers, and once we had a family come in with a child who was extremely deathly allergic to cheese. Meaning I had to make that kid a burger wrapped in aluminum foil on the grill with a different pair of gloves, all the while cooking 50 other burgers and praying I don't kill this kid. If your kid is deathly allergic to something, please, dear God, don't put it on a 17-year-old kid to keep them alive. Like, that's just not cool at all. Story 9. To help earn money for my son's school trip to the British Isles, he and I worked at the concession stand for HS football games, among a bunch of other things. At the very first game, the stadium supervisor helped us set up. He opened a cabinet and took out the nacho cheese machine and plugged it in. He opened the lid and looked inside. That should last a couple of hours. When it starts getting low, take a bag, cut a corner off, and squeeze it in. When you are done tonight, just unplug it and stick it back in the cupboard so it will be ready for next week. That was 20 years ago. I haven't eaten nachos since that evening. Story 10. I used to work at a mom and pop bagel shop breakfast restaurant, and people would come in during the Sunday brunch rush saying that nothing with gluten could touch their food. We offered gluten-free bagels. It's a bagel shop. Gluten is virtually everywhere. We would have to pull someone off the line, get a fresh knife, cutting board, and separate cream cheese. There were a dozen flavored ones. I mean, we got it done, but it slowed everything down big time during the rush. The worst is when the waitstaff would inform the guest that it would take extra time to be safe with their allergy, and then the guest would say, "Oh, it's not really that bad, so just do it the normal way." Story 11. Burgers from Sheetz are microwaved. The grill marks are fake. Bacon is microwaved, too. Also, don't drink the ducking peanut butter shakes. One particular peanut butter shake has nearly 2,000 calories in it. Story 12. I work at a Sheetz. Most of all of our meat is microwaved. However, for all intents and purposes, we're a gas station, and our food is amazing compared to our competitors. I've had almost everything we sell, and it's all better than fast food. Story 13. Subway's meat all comes packaged. No surprise, really. However, when you open up the package of turkey, you get hit with a wave of farts. The turkey smells like real, actual human farts. My manager even warned me about it before I opened my first package. Also, when we made the tuna salad, we would have to weigh out a pound of mayo to mix with the fish. If you go in the morning, all of the meats/cheeses/vegetables/bread are whatever was left from the night before. That stuff gets used up before they start using everything that's been freshly made, cut. Story 14. I worked in several Tim Hortons as a teenager. The ice cap machine never gets cleaned, never ever. One of the girls I worked with went into anaphylaxis after making herself an ice cap at the end of her shift. She had a severe penicillin allergy. This was approx 16 years ago in a few locations around southern Ontario. Obviously, YMMV depending on when and where you worked, but my experience was that they never got cleaned. Story 15. Worked at an AMC theater for 2 years. Do not buy the coffee unless it's early morning when we first open. Otherwise, you're going to drink coffee that's been sitting out for a solid 5 hours at least. Story 16. Former Applebee's employee. It's not quite fast food, but fast and casual dining. So much of the food is in frozen vacuum-sealed packages that are thawed in vats of boiling water or microwaved. The things that need to look nice spend 1-2 minutes on each side on a grill for appearance, but they are not fresh. Think steak, burgers, chicken breast. Beyond that, salads are often assembled or at least exposed to the side of the main food line by your servers. The people handling money and bussing food in-out. The people who probably aren't washing their hands and gloving every time they toss some croutons on your salad. Bottom line, Applebee's is to be avoided. At least the Midwest franchises I worked for. Update. Good news for Applebee's lovers. Based on the mixed comments from other current and former employees, it seems that many of the disturbing food prep practices aren't universal and may be specific to certain regions and franchises. Bad news. Also based on comments from other employees, these practices existed at more than just my franchise and still do at some locations. I don't know how you would distinguish between these as a customer other than to visit the kitchen. Eat at your own risk. Story 17. Panera worker here. Nothing's gross or illegal, but just know that half of everything we serve comes in frozen. Soups, meats, some pastries, and the mac and cheese pastas all come in frozen. But to answer the question, the calorie count for the mac and cheese is absurdly high. I don't remember the exact number, but do your body a favor and limit how many times you have it. There are people who come in several times a week to order a bread bowl of mac and cheese who don't realize how bad it is for you. Also on the topic of our mac and cheese, it's not special Panera brand mac and cheese, it's Nestle mac and cheese. Replies, I have nothing against frozen foods, a genius development in reducing food spoilage, but I find it ironic that Panera relies on it so much. Their whole ad campaign is all about fresher than fresh, purer than pure, healthier than healthy, eco-organic, yada yada. Story 18. Domino's, United Kingdom based. Never order the tandoori chicken. It never gets used, especially during the week. It's at least 2 days old from all the tub switching, and most likely semi-slimy. Edit 1. First of all, it's a topping. I should clarify. When a fresh bag of cooked tandoori chicken is opened, it's lush as fuck. But it's not popular enough to get used often. So to save on food waste costs, we get told to just swap the food from that day into a fresh tub for ready for tomorrow. Give it a couple of days, and the chicken at the bottom is slimy and sweaty as fuck. Should also note that it's slimy in the tub before going through the oven. When it comes out the other side, it all looks the same. Fresh or days old. I quit because of the poor in-store management forcing shit like that. Edit 2. Secret option. The real lowdown? Personal pizza taste differs from person to person, but never skimp on the herbs. Honestly, I'm 100% serious. Pay the extra 90 pence or whatever it is, and get the herbs as an extra topping on whatever you get. They're game-changing. Also, and I'm not sure if it's in every store, but there's a secret option that's not on the web app or online anywhere. It's triple sauce. Can only be ordered over the counter as far as I'm aware. 3 times pizza sauce with single cheese and herbs on a standard large base. It's a ducking experience. Story 19. Without a doubt, you can go to any Quick Trip and order any of their kitchen or roller items and they will be fresh. But you're getting ripped off when you buy a slice of the pizza, or a whole pizza. For some reason, we charge a ridiculous amount for it. To be honest, it's not quite worth it. Story 20. Jack in the Box. I don't know why anyone orders the bacon cheddar potato wedges. It's fake cheese with fake bacon on fried potatoes. I'm trying to remember the ingredient list on the cheese, but I distinctly recall nowhere on the packaging did it say it contained dairy. It also smells like feet. Story 21. Worked for 8 years at In-N-Out. If this thread is wanting to expose gross stuff, nothing. I swear, the quality standard that they have, which became my standard, was nuts. Food quality, cleaning routines, regular inspections. It makes it hard for me to eat anywhere else. 8 years of a free burger every day worked, and I still crave them. But if you want to slow the growth of your gut, cut the shakes. They're real ice cream mix, not a typical watered-down shake mix. I actually prefer the watered-down taste of a McDonald's or Wendy's shake, but an In-N-Out shake is like eating liquid ice cream. You're already getting a burger and fries. Skip dessert this time. Story 22. I've posted about this, but I worked at a Japanese casual fast food restaurant for a while, and we had this thing called a volcano roll. It cost $7.25. A California roll there cost $3.75. The volcano roll was a Cali roll cut into the shape of a triangle and topped with spicy mayo that has been heated up with about 10 cents worth of fish, literally just a few bits. You are much better off ordering a Cali roll and paying 50 cents extra for spicy mayo on the side and asking them to heat it up. I had one guy come in with a girl, and he ordered a couple of regular rolls like spicy tuna and yellowtail, along with a volcano roll. When served in the restaurant, unless they ask us, we would put the sauce on top so it looked nice, like a volcano. When I brought that roll over, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys put the sauce on. I've only gotten it for pickup, and the sauce is always on the side. I don't really like it. Could you bring me one without it?" I tried not to laugh and said, "Sure." I went back and the sushi chef asked what was wrong. I told him that he didn't like the sauce and wanted one without it. He laughed and said all right, so he took a Cali roll, cut it up, and put it on the plate. I brought it back to the guy and he was super pumped. Basically, this guy paid $7.25 for a roll that would have cost him $3.75, and me and the sushi chef got to split a free volcano roll. Normally, I would have just told him about it, but the dude was being pretty arrogant the entire time, I'm guessing, to act like he was a sushi expert to impress the girl he was with. If you're ordering rolls, make sure to look at the ingredients and see exactly what you're getting, because you could end up overpaying for a glorified California roll. Story 23. I used to work at Papa John's. Everything. But in particular, the ducking garlic knots, full of ducking salt and dripping with faux butter. Story 24. I work at Starbucks. All food comes in frozen, but the egg bites come in vacuum-sealed packages with each one individually packaged. We have to massage them, then pop them out of the plastic. They're a pain to get out of the oven because I guess they play hockey while they're cooking and end up on 2 separate sides of the oven. The oven starts screaming at us. Then, when finally we take them out of the oven, Grease pops on our hand, replies, "I'm sorry, I order these from time to time when I forget to make breakfast, as they are lower in carbs than anything else you have on your menu. they kinda suck, but hey, I'm here anyways to get my damn cold brew and be on my way. Also, thank you for being the only coffee chain that understands when I say I want cream, that I want a reasonable amount of cream, not a splash of coffee in my cup of cream. Story 25. Back around 2003 to 2004, my ex-wife worked for Wendy's. When they were about to fry a new batch of chicken nuggets, the other employees would just dip the bottom of the plastic bag into the fryer so that it would melt and the nuggets would fall out. They were too ducking lazy to open the bag properly. I never ate there after hearing that. Story 26. From what I've witnessed, iced drinks. Anywhere. I worked at Starbucks for nigh upon 9 years, and the ice machine was rarely cleaned properly. On the rare occasion that a water tester came by, she cited us for having dirty ice. She said we had 48 hours to fix it, or she would get the health board to inspect. I took it on myself to learn how to take apart and clean the ice machines, and we got a pass the next time she came in. I continually deep cleaned it once a month. I think it was supposed to be once a week, can't remember. But from other Starbucks I have worked at, the ice machines do not get deep cleaned. They get sanitized, but that's superficial, and the inner workings, the ice tray, water tubes, are impossible to clean without running a full cycle with a heavy chemical meant to utterly strip the bollocks out of the machine. From what I've heard, it's similar most everywhere. Edit for partners. Holy man, rip inbox. Okay, first of all, I haven't worked at Starbucks in a couple of years, and this happened way before the playbook thing. Secondly, this was at multiple stores. I have worked at a total of 7 stores, some for a few years, others for a few months. Make of that what you will, but realize before you also comment, but at my store, that I did not work at your store. I saw what I saw, and I'm passing on a lesson to be cautious about the shit you put in your mouths. In case you didn't notice, that's the theme of this entire thread. I don't want to fight about it with current and ex-partners. It happened. That's why I'm sharing my story. Your denial will not change that. Yikes. Rant over. Edit for everyone. Just take my story with a grain of salt. Like of the stories, it's pretty common knowledge that the ice machines are fairly neglected in any setting, but that doesn't mean your next margarita is going to give you hepatitis C. Mostly, just remember that places that sell food are usually run by kids, with minimal training, and not a lot of shits given. Ensuring health and safety will never be at 100%, but you need to look out for yourself and understand the risks. Replies: I can confirm this. I was the only one in my store who actually cleaned ours. Nobody else even knew how. It probably hasn't been properly cleaned since I left 5 years ago. The biggest problem with Starbucks ice is that they're on the filtered water system, so the chlorine in the tap water is removed. As a result, they build up mold and mildew much more quickly than unfiltered machines. Story 27. McDonald's. When I worked at McDonald's about 10 years ago, someone had to hand-make the burritos. I can't tell you the number of people who would make burritos without gloves on. We had one lady who also worked for us on a special program, mentally handicapped. She would sweat so bad, she had a personal fan also, mind you, that it would drip on the station she was working on, sometimes even into the burritos themselves. She was also let go for hiding in the freezer and eating a bunch of burritos. Her handler was awful, never stopped her or paid attention to her. Felt bad. TLDR, be safe, avoid the McDonald's burritos. Story 28. I worked at Pizza Hut, then Domino's. First, always order Domino's. They make their pizza dough fresh every day. Pizza Hut keeps it frozen in a cooler for weeks. Second, never order Pizza Hut pasta. Most of the ingredients are disgusting. Third, y'all may think you want stuffed crust pizzas. You do not, in fact, want stuffed crust pizzas. Story 29. Worked at McDonald's back in high school, which was a good while ago now. 10? 11 years. So how applicable this remains is hard to say. In general, if you are ordering outside of peak hours, you should expect that the burgers are probably decently old by an hour or two. I worked the grills, and usually I would only do half batches to try and keep the meat a little fresher, but a lot of grillers probably don't. For best freshness at late hours when they're not busy-ish, ask for your burger with no seasoning. They'll have to make it fresh. Or lie that they did. Similarly, for fries, if you ask for no salt on them. Oh, and bacon, at least when I was there, which was before the all-day breakfast thing, was not made fresh. Usually, it had been sitting around for a while. Thankfully, it was rarely needed, which is part of why it wasn't made often. Beyond that, you should be okay. Just know that the salads may not be super fresh, since our manager at times had us mark them for the next day instead of making fresh ones for the next day. Your mileage may vary depending on the staff, obviously. Story 30. Speaking as someone who also worked at McDonald's, please don't ask for fries with no salt. Yes, it will be fresh, but it requires cleaning and drying the fry scoop every time it gets salt all over it and dumping the fresh load of fries onto something other than the ordinary fry container. Again, salt covers the whole surface. We usually used a clean serving tray. Fries with no salt is a huge hassle. I didn't mind doing it when necessary. Some people have low sodium diets and still want fries. Nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing more frustrating than going through all that work for fries without salt, only to hear them ask the window person for salt packets. The universal opinion among the workers at my McDonald's was that we just wanted them to ask for fresh fries if it was that important to them. It takes us 5 seconds to drop a new basket into the fryer. Story 31. Not exactly fast food, but I used to work in a Publix deli for 2 years. They're super strict about cleanliness and will almost never say no to the customer's request, so long as it's something feasible. Want a sandwich with 10 different kinds of meat slices that weigh the exact amount a normal sub should weigh? With 4 different cheese slices, each cut in a specific way? Sure, go ahead and ask for it. It will be their pleasure to fulfill your request. Quality is hands down what they care about, so long as you don't have an attitude for how long it will take to fulfill your request. Also, if you ask for some complex request when there's a long line behind you, 100%, the person helping you will not be excited, and the people behind you will get impatient. Just a couple of things to note. Everything is strictly temperature controlled. Meat is not kept longer than a week, some no longer than 3 days depending on what kind of meat it is, Boar's Head products included. Everything is marked when it's opened and when it will be thrown out. Bread is made daily in the bakery, usually twice a day, once in the morning, again in the afternoon. Any leftover bread is shipped out for donations to local shelters. This is a form of a tax write-off to have money returned for any unused bread product. Hot case food should be replaced every 4 hours, though sometimes isn't. This includes fried and rotisserie chicken. A lot of the sides in the hot case are just heated up, as in microwaved items, like the mac and cheese, greens, or the rice. The wedges are fried, however. You can request anything be cleaned or made fresh, especially if you tell them you have an allergy to be concerned about. They will sanitize a slicer for you and will only use that one slicer for any of your requests. There are a few items that are not well advertised but are cheaper, and you get more for ordering them. A good example is the chicken tender dinner. You get 3 chicken tenders, a roll, and 2 sides of your choice for like $7 to $8. If you want any of the sauces available in the back, usually buffalo, just ask them to put some in a small container for you instead of purchasing the overpriced packets outside the deli. If you like the buffalo sauce they use, it's Texas Pete's. You can find the same sauce in the aisle. There's a lot more I could go into detail about if anyone was curious. Feel free to ask. Story 32, Dairy Queen. Anything with turkey on it. The turkey comes in these gross vacuum-sealed packages, and it gets a sheen to it rather quickly, or dries out. Regardless, it smells horrible and only tastes good when hidden under a mound of ranch and bacon. Just don't eat it. Also, banana split blizzards. Good God, it's the messiest thing in the world to make, and the end product will be liquid ice cream, because you're asking us to blend strawberry topping, pineapple topping, chocolate syrup, and bananas into soft serve. Just order the real thing, or don't, because banana splits are time-consuming to make LOL. Story 33. Sweet tea, or any tea variation in the metal containers. They just get rinsed out, and oftentimes, when whoever is making it, they drop the giant spoon to mix it and fish it out with their bare hands. Cold cuts from Subway is another one I'll never order. My coworkers would put the meat slices on the metal counter to prep it. They'd never clean it off first. Story 34. Used to work at Subway a while back. You do not want the chicken. That stuff is like chicken-flavored sponge. Also, the cold cut. It's swimming in pink slime in the package. Be very careful of the meatballs as well. Because of their temperature, they start growing bacteria after 2 hours. I worked in 3 stores, and it wasn't until I was a manager that I was able to ensure that the meatballs were getting thrown out after their time expired. The veggies are also the most expensive items on the sub, so most owners will have their employees keep veggies past their throw-out time until they run out. I'd recommend toasting your sub on a double cycle to try to kill off any bacteria that might be growing. Story 35. Any fast food restaurant drink dispenser, just don't. Some places might clean out the nozzles regularly, but even then I guarantee they're not cleaning inside the housing because they can't. Even worse are the lazy pieces of shit fast food/gas station joints that never wash their tea dispensers. Imagine you using the same cup to pour your drinks from and you never, ever, ever wash it. Then at night it's empty, warms up a little, and you repeat use for weeks/months. Black slime, pink slime, mold, residue like oil, etc. All coming from the ice dispenser and drink nozzles. Ducking, disgusting. I don't order drinks from any fast food, and any time possible, I either drink my own bottled water or just go for a bottled canned beer. To those mentioning that they've cleaned them before, did you just clean the nozzles, or every single 3/8? PVC hose leading the fluid. Ever clean the ice housing? How about the connections to the syrup dispensers? Story 36. I was a manager at a Jamba Juice, and the smoothies are not as healthy as they say they are there. Unless you get the only juice and fruit-based smoothie options, your drink is more often than not going to have 50+ grams of sugar. A popular drink there is the Orange Dream Machine, and a large one of those has 120 grams of sugar in it. If you are actually looking for a healthier option there, then go for the fresh squeezed juices, or ones without sherbet or frozen yogurt. Story 37. I work at Taco Bell. Y'all need to stop ordering the rolled chicken tacos. I'm begging you. I've tried them without sauce, and they are 100% flavorless. The flavor comes from whatever shorty side sauce you order. I can't believe these are a limited time offer. They're garbage. Everyone I work with agrees, but they're so overwhelmingly popular for some reason.
Story 38. Chick-fil-A worker. There's nothing gross or anything like that. However, the soups come frozen, with the exception of the chicken, which we do add to the soup. Also, the avocado lime ranch and creamy salsa salad dressings are loaded with calories. You're literally ruining all the good you're doing by ordering a salad when you pour on the avocado lime ranch or creamy salsa dressings, though they are really good. Another thing loaded with calories is the Chick-fil-A sauce. Each little packet has 140 calories. Polynesian has 110 calories per packet, so be wary of that one too. But I mean, it is God's restaurant, so who cares about the calories? Story 39. Nachos at any movie theater. The cheese comes in a can that looks like a super gross paint can. Story 40. Baked beans from Steak and Shake. They are not fresh at all. They put them in the little cup things early in the morning and set them aside. If there are still a lot at the end of the day, they just serve them the next day. Maybe not the worst thing to order, but gross to me.
Story 41. I work at a Subway, and my managers are stingy as duck. They don't care if the tomato is rotted. I have to slice that ducker and put it in with the rest. So yeah, stay away from Subway's fresh food lol. Story 42. Dairy Queen. Everything. Just don't eat there. Our cook didn't wear gloves, no one wore hairnets, and everyone touched everything with dirty hands. The people on cash who made the blizzards would eat out of the topping bins when they were making your blizzards, so you probably got some of their spit from their hands in your food. The strawberry sauce was left in a large bucket on the floor of the cooler. We used a dirty cup that we had to fish out from the bottom of the bucket with our bare hands in order to refill it. You left each night covered in chocolate sauce. It was very dirty. Story 43. Not fast food, but a private restaurant. A pitcher of beer costs more than 4 drafts, and only provides enough for 3 glasses. A screwdriver costs 50 cents more than a vodka and orange juice. A specialty catfish sandwich, 2 fillets on a hoagie bun with a side of tartar, was over double the price of 2 small catfish sandwiches. 2 fillets on 2 burger buns with no tartar, which is only 50 cents. Then people would order the specialty fish with no bread. It's the exact same fish and breading. Half of the employees wouldn't tell them this fact. Shot specials that are $1 are typically stock that we need to get rid of before it goes bad. This is probably leftover premix that we made for that big party last month and didn't sell all of. Also, never order wings to be fried again after sauced. It ducks up our grease and alters the taste of foods dropped into it after until we change it. Stop ordering the hottest wings on the menu without tasting the sauce. You will not be refunded because of your poor life choice. Never buy a mix and ask for it to be made stronger. You will end up with a straw full of liquor and a glass of soda. We are already losing out on our all-you-can-eat special to please our customers. Stop sharing your all-you-can-eat and ordering 8 plates. Stop complaining that your food is cold because you spent the last 15 minutes talking on the phone while your food sat in front of you. Story 44, Publix rotisserie chickens. They're so pumped full of various liquids it'll literally pour out like a fountain when we tempt them. Also, there is a fair chance that whatever flavor you get will be covered in the juices of other flavored chickens. Nothing is technically wrong with them, it's just a turnoff when you make them yourself. Story 45. McDonald's, do not order any of the blended drinks or the sundaes. They're really big on food safety for the hot food, but in terms of equipment used for the other stuff, no. There's probably mold inside the hot fudge and caramel pumps. They're difficult to clean, and it's not a top priority. I cleaned them voluntarily because I used to work at a Dairy Queen, and they used the same pumps, so I knew how to clean them quickly. The strawberry topping never gets used, so it's likely insanely old. And with the blended drinks, those machines are very difficult to clean, so even though they're cleaned once a week, that cleaning focuses on the tubes used to dispense product, not the spot where the product actually comes out, so there's likely yogurt or milk sitting on it for months. Also, I did work at multiple different locations, but the main location I worked at was very well known for its standards in food quality and safety, as well as cleanliness. I have not been to another McDonald's that lives up to the standards of that main store. At Dairy Queen, they're all run differently, but just know that food safety is not a huge thing, even at the corporate level. They make you temp food twice a day, but they don't have uniform processes to ensure that the food is consistently temping that way. So, say that you're temping a piece of grilled chicken. If that piece of chicken is only at 125 degree F, it's supposed to be 165 degree F, you just cook it longer, then retemp. But whether or not you continue to cook it longer for the rest of the hour, day, week, month, etc., isn't exactly a priority. It has been a few years since I worked at either of these places, but it still bugs me. Story 46. Papa John's worker here, don't order the garlic knots. Order the garlic parmesan breadsticks instead. It's cheaper, and you get more product. We use exactly the same dough and seasoning / butter for both, but we use 14-inch large pizza dough on the sticks instead of 10-inch small. Pizza dough for knots, and it's less expensive. Story 47. I work at Smashburger. Don't bother with getting full-sized burgers unless you want a big patty or many patties. It's dramatically cheaper to order a kid's meal plus add whatever you want on top plus and pay the 10 cents to upsize your fries. It also comes with a bottomless pop. You'll pay about $7 Canadian as opposed to $17 for the same stuff, just a slightly smaller patty. Story 48. We all like to think these big evil corporations serve up minced rat burgers and everyone fingers their arseholes before prepping your food. But every fast food joint I have worked in has had very strict food prep and storage rules, because no one wants to get sued, besides all the laws that govern food prep, which can result in meaty fines and loss of revenue. Story 49. I work at Subway and Taco Bell. The Subway I work at is at a gas station. The only thing that's fresh there is the tomato, onions, and bell peppers, which we cut every morning. Every single meat comes frozen and is dumped onto the container once it's thawed. The soup and meatballs are microwaved. The tuna isn't even refrigerated. It comes in a bag as a pink rectangle that we break apart. It's 1 part tuna to 2 parts mayo, and then customers will order even more mayo with it. We go through so much mayo per day that it makes me want to vomit. The only thing I would advise against eating is the tuna. Taco Bell is basically a grease fest, though I doubt anyone is surprised to hear that. All our meat comes frozen, obviously. They keep us staffed to the bare minimum, so everybody does everything. The person who cleans the toilets and touches your money also probably made your burrito, but we wash our hands and never touch food without gloves. The only thing I would advise against eating there is the shredded chicken, only because it hardly ever gets bought, so it sits in the pan all day getting burned. And the grilled chicken is better, and it's free to substitute anything with shredded chicken to grilled. Seriously. Shredded chicken burrito with grilled instead of shredded. Pile on the avocado ranch. Best burrito on our menu. Story 50. Tim Hortons employee. Stay away from the grilled chicken and the steak sandwiches. Also, the flavored cream cheese is always technically expired because they can't be kept in those small plastic cups for too long. Story 51. Domino's employee, United Kingdom based, here. Here's a couple of tips, although some might not apply to all restaurants. Don't order anything if you don't want your food to have been touched by the employee's dirty hands. We don't use gloves to prep the food. Not only do many employees not wash their hands after smoking a cigarette if they're smokers, many of them also decide to text on their phones during the shift. Phone screens are dirty. Oh, and forget about washed hands after touching dirty cardboard boxes to open the mozzarella cheese more toppings. Don't order anything with ham/bacon/chicken/beef. Pepperoni is usually fine between the morning and 5 p.m. The meat often sits opened for a few hours before it gets used up and refilled. After a few hours, the ham looks pale and slimy. It's pink when it's fresh. Always order your food to be delivered as soon as possible. If not, your pizza will be sat on a shelf with its toppings outside the fridge area and will look disgusting by the time it finally enters the oven. Don't order toppings like tandoori chicken or Mexican chicken. They often sit unused for several days and are definitely not fresh. When it's busy, evening hours, expect your vegetarian pizza to have been cut with a pizza cutter that has been cutting meat all day. You can expect your vegetarian ingredients to have sometimes been smeared all over the meat ingredients, especially when it gets busy. Food constantly falls from the employee's hands and gets a bit mixed up at times. Thinking about buying a large, thin crust pizza? No problem. We'll use a medium pizza dough and make you pay for the large one. From time to time, you might taste a tiny bit of sanitizer in your pizza because some employees don't close the fridges before spraying the sanitizer on the fridge to clean it. The pizza dough balls, while they are delicious, are not worth their price. Managers laugh when they get ordered because it costs the restaurant about 30 pence to make them for you. The price may not be accurate. I've overheard this price being said by a manager once a few months ago. Although that's pretty much all I can think about, I just want you all to be aware that by ordering anything from Domino's Pizza, you're supporting a company that treats its employees, the ones who create your order, like slaves. We get paid the national minimum wage, £7, 50 hour as a 21-year-old, are expected to stand all day and work in constant stress. The managers also think that we're stupid and that we actually feel encouraged to work harder whenever they walk into the Maitland zone and shout, "Beautiful pizzas, guys, keep going." It's an insult that makes us feel like slaves, even more than before you came in and said that stupid statement. Oh, I almost forgot. They also often make us work till 3:30 a.m. with no extra pay for night hours. Sorry for the rant, life sucks a bit, but I hope this post was helpful to at least one person. Story 52, Raising Cane's. Don't get the coleslaw. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just really generic. You can trade it for more toast for no extra. While you're at it, ask for your toast, buttered on both sides. And try the honey mustard, I like it more than the Cane's sauce. Story 53, Fresh fries at Chick-fil-A. No, they haven't been sitting under a heat lamp for the past hour and a half. We have a rule that if they're up there for longer than 5 minutes, we have to throw them away. Please stop making us make new fries. Story 54, Not fast food but food at a hospital cafeteria where I worked. Meat. It's the lowest grade shit available and basically just slabs of fat and gristle. Most of the time it's kept warm in hot water and often just left from the day before. Sometimes it's warmed in trays of cheap melted butter depending on what kind of meat it is. Story 55, Chick-fil-A here. First off, do not ever feel guilty for asking for some customizations to your order. It will be our pleasure. Even if it's to have your nuggets well done 4 times, we will do it. Adding coffee, strawberries, Oreos, whipped cream, creamers to your shake, as long as we have the ingredient, and go nuts. Only warning I want to give is, do yourself a favor and stop ordering the lemonade. We make fresh batches throughout the day, which also includes adding a ridiculous amount of sugar to it. Trust me, it's a lot. The diet, too. Avoid those. Story 56. Previous Pizza Hut manager. To answer the question, everything. It's all frozen. But usually ingredients need to be kept frozen while shipped in storage, only pulled to thaw a day prior. You are correct, hypothetical question asker. But do you know what doesn't need to be frozen? What's that? The dough. Yes, you read that right. The dough is shipped in pre-formed frozen discs, or rectangles for the breadsticks, that employees break apart and pan the night before. Then they're left to thaw overnight. Pan dough and breadsticks are placed in a proofer, big metal thing that is very warm, so that the dough rises. They switched from making dough to frozen in 2005. It doesn't taste bad, but the quality was definitely better when it was made fresh, daily. Just think that many of their competitors charge less for legit fresh-made pizza. Story 57, Meatball Marinara from Subway. When I worked there almost 10 years ago, we would microwave any leftovers from the previous shift and just scoop out any nasty tomato crust on the top. I was diligent and would toss anything over 24 hours old, but knew some of my coworkers were sometimes too lazy to grab and heat a new batch. Story 58 had a friend work at Applebee's. Almost everything there was microwaved. The kitchen was just a wall of microwaves. So just don't go there. Story 59. I work at Wendy's, and I will say that the worst thing to get is the fish. When I started a month ago, they brought out a new bag of fish, and the same bag is still there. I would also like to confirm that the chili is legit. The meat isn't as old as people think. It's most likely a day old at most. And everything else is legit.
Story 60. Everything at Domino's. They have a Subway-type layout, but they have trays underneath to catch the toppings and pick them out of a topping monstrosity. Pineapple, meat, pasta, veggies, all of them touch and combine and get thrown back in for the next dish. Pizza makers are made to pick them out. At minimum wage and constantly screwed out of hours, nobody cares. Nobody does anything special for gluten-free pizzas either. That's just the dough. Also, the pasta in the tin tastes like metal. Get a bread bowl if you must. This upsets me so much since I'm progressively allergic to some of the ingredients. I would be livid if I was vegetarian. Story 61. Fantasy Island Amusement Park in Grand Island, New York. My son worked in food service there for 3 days. They intentionally sold bad food. If it fell on the ground, dust it off and sell it. No matter what is wrong with it, it would still be sold. He quit when he was written up for not selling food that was expired and it fell on the dirty floor to a kid. He told them to duck off and quit. Couldn't be prouder. Story 62. Never ever order the Philly cheesesteak from Subway. I'm not sure if it's still packaged the same, but it would come in a giant bag already with the meat, peppers, and onions cut and mixed. The employees just had to measure and pack them into little containers. Grossest thing I've personally seen in fast food. Story 63. Former Little Caesars pizza employee here, don't order anything from the hot and ready part of the menu. Just don't call ahead and order. Hot and ready pizza is bullshit. And don't let them slip a hot and ready into your order when you order a pepperoni or a cheese. Have them make all your pizzas fresh. And the thin crust pizza is just half the product for the full price. Story 64. Cracker Barrel, cook here. Don't get roast beef in general. It's common for it to have a shiny spot on it, and that's because it had a cyst in it when it was cooked. Our meatloaf comes from a tube, and sometimes our green beans, turnip greens, and pinto beans sit in the food warmer for days because they technically can. Story 65. Buffalo Wild Wings here. The grease we use in our fryers is 100% beef tallow, and one serving is 33% of your daily fat intake. Everything on our menu is absurdly bad for you as far as calories and fat are concerned. We have salads, but they are way overpriced for what you get.
Story 66. Not fast food, but I worked at a local creamery for a time. The hard ice cream was made fresh on the premises, but the soft serve was just frozen cartons of soft serve mix we got shipped in and put in a machine. Soft serve was slightly cheaper than hard ice cream, but still way overpriced. Almost all the baked goods, except for one product, were also frozen and shipped in, but advertised as homemade and marked at ridiculous prices, that is $18.99 for a homemade pie. It was really frustrating and has since made me question the authenticity of anything purportedly homemade. You'd be surprised how high prices and the power of suggestion will convince you something is better quality than it actually is. Story 67. Starbucks. Frappuccinos and holiday mocha drinks. They are like 80% sugar syrup and 10% coffee. When I worked at Starbucks, the containers that the mocha syrups come in have some kind of health warning on it, even about consumption, amount I think. But it was so long ago, I forgot the actual wording. I had regular customers who I would see literally every day, and I don't think it was a coincidence that they would order one mocha frappuccino a day and they had bad skin, and probably various other health problems. Also, any holiday mocha or sweet-flavored drink. Example: a regular hot mocha has 3 pumps, roughly 1 pump = 1 tablespoon of chocolate syrup. When you order a peppermint mocha, they keep it at 3 pumps of chocolate and add 3 more pumps of peppermint-flavored sugar syrup, and that's just a tall, small size. So before any coffee is even added, the cup is literally almost filled halfway with purely sugar, and when you get a bigger size, they add more proportionally. After working at various coffee shops over the years, I now just drink black coffee. Story 68. Worked at Sonic in 2007 for 2 months. They rarely cleaned the pumps. Definitely not the soda nozzles. They had ants in everything. In the strawberries, on the bananas, and blast additives. And my manager, 23-year-old dude, told me to scrape mold off of a new batch of strawberries because he didn't want to do the paperwork on disposing of them. Sometimes, they'd climb into the giant ice freezer for shits and giggles. Another guy there had ducking, nasty-ass, druggy oil/dirt-caked hands and would pull cherries out, squeeze lemons and limes, without gloves or utensils. On the flip, though, Cracker Barrel is held to extremely high standards. In my 6 months, I saw maybe a fly. Story 69, a little late to the show and not necessarily fast food. But as a bartender who has worked at multiple tiki and dock bars, always check to see what kind of pour spouts the bar uses on their alcohol bottles, and if there's any method of covering the openings of said spouts. The metal pour spouts are the most bartender-friendly, but are also the absolute worst to keep bugs from flying or crawling into those liquor bottles. Flies love getting into those sweet-flavored liquors, and if there's a careless bartender working during a rush, he or she will not take the time to check the inside of the bottle to see if there are any dead insects floating around. One of the bars I was working in didn't require bartenders to cover bottles with a plastic shot cup, which is common in many bars as a closing procedure. During my open, I checked to see how many of these bottles had poor little dead critters floating around. Turns out I had to throw away about 12 different bottles of liquor. The sweet tea vodka probably had about 1/4 of an inch of drowned insects floating in the bottom of the bottle. My barback and manager weren't too happy with me doing that, which made me realize I should probably look for a different job location.
Story 70. Worked at Chipotle a few summers ago. Nothing is fresh. It's all been sitting for hours, except for maybe the chicken during peak hours, since it's most popular. But the beans sit there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. if it's slow. They just change the pan every few hours to get rid of the bean crust.
Story 71. Used to work at Cold Stone Creamery. Honestly, the one I worked at was fastidious about food safety and cleanliness, so nothing was too bad. And most of their ice cream is pretty legit. Every Cold Stone makes their own ice cream in-house, and the only 2 bases we had were chocolate and vanilla. That means the strawberry ice cream was vanilla ice cream with a bunch of strawberries mixed in, same with banana, coffee, etc. You do not want to see the nutrition info on any of the shakes, however. More ice cream goes into a shake than into a large. Story 72. KFC coleslaw. My Nana used to work in the processing plant where the vegetables would go along the conveyor belt and into the shredder. She saw multiple snails, slugs, and other bugs go into the mixer. Story 73. As a restaurant worker, this is a message for everyone. The restaurant is not your pantry. Just because we have all the ingredients for something you want, doesn't mean we're so inclined to make it. All the cooks know how to make the menu. They've made thousands of the same item over and over. They know it with their eyes closed. A person who has been working at the restaurant for a week will work the line faster than Gordon Ramsay himself if it's his first day there, I can guarantee you. So, when you order a grilled cheese sandwich on white bread with tomato and onion in it when it's not on our menu, you're slowing down service for everyone. You're throwing the cooks for a loop, and you're making everyone's order behind you slowed by several minutes, which is hard to recover from when it's rush hour and the cooks have to read the ticket through over several times to make sure they got everything correct, which is several minutes cumulatively away from their station, not to mention the several minutes of them going, "Where's the white bread?" and looking for it while they scramble around, asking the front of the house, wait, did they want the onions on top or inside? Because they're from a country where they don't really eat grilled cheese sandwiches, and before you know it, everyone's food is taking 30 minutes because your ditch vegetarian wife didn't like what we had on the menu. As an aside, you know you're going to have a bad time when the father or mother orders something really complicated on one of our signature dishes. They want this on the side, the meat done this way, with extra this on the side, and substitute this for that, and with an extra this on the side, because I know all of your stupid kids are going to want their food a certain way as well. Your kids aren't picky eaters. You raised picky eaters. Story 74. Subway. I worked in Subway for around 5 years, and very quickly went off their food. When a new bag of chicken, it comes in bags of pre-cut frozen strips, is opened, the whole back room would heave, ... IT has such a bad smell to it that we start baking bread just to mask the smell from customers. On at least a weekly basis, somebody would forget to get certain meat out in time for it to defrost, So you could walk in to start your shift and be like, why is the sink full of big beef melts and boiling water, Lena? Again. Also, I found as many of the staff only lasted a few weeks/months. Nobody really gave a duck about date rotation. The amount of times I had to sort out a complaint about a packet of out-of-date Doritos was crazy. I can't speak for every store, but the ones I've worked at have never, apart from my first manager, who was on the other end of the scale, gave a shit about the customer. Also, halal meat stays halal for about 20 seconds before some bellend contaminates it by not changing their gloves. 99% of staff training is done at home watching videos. Story 75. You can get a very good McDonald's that's very strict on hygiene standards and regulations, just like you can get a terrible one. My boyfriend used to work at the best McDonald's in North America when it came to hygiene, and when we went to get an ice cream at another McDonald's in the very same city, he watched the employees work and told me, I counted, and just to serve you that ice cream, they broke about 12 hygiene and safety regulations. I'm terrified. Story 76. Stop buying Godiva. Ice cream. The paste that makes that shit is a disgusting powder we mix with tap water, and the soft serve machine is intensely difficult to fully clean before midnight on a closing shift, so normally it only will be partially cleaned. And the cleanings happen every 2 weeks. It used to be real dark chocolate and white chocolate vanilla bean cream that came as a gorgeous liquid and smelled like Willy Wonka's best, but it was changed to the shitty powder a few years ago to help cut production costs and also to cut the calories because healthy chocolate is the fad. Also, the cones are age-old. They are only changed out when the dipped chocolate part starts to bloom and look ugly. And by change them out, I mean they use the ugly ones next and cover the ugly with ice cream. And to top it all off, if you don't like the sound of this, before I left last year, they also changed the chocolate-blended drinks to use the same powder. There's no longer any real chocolate in those drinks, just powder and syrup. They're $6 milkshakes you can get bigger versions of at a Steak and Shake for half the price with more flavor options. Story 77. I worked at Dairy Queen, and this particular thing probably doesn't happen in all Dairy Queen, but if you have an allergy, please make sure you see the employee wipe down the blending machine. I would wipe down the machine every time, as the training video stated, because if I make a peanut butter blizzard and the next person has a nut allergy, but I got scolded by my manager because I was wasting the customer's time. I quit very shortly after because of it. As a customer, I'd feel better knowing that the utensils were clean, but I guess that's just me. Story 78. Manager at McDonald's here. Do not under any circumstance order a fillet of fish or crispy chicken anything. Those shits stay in there for hours because some McDonald's don't like to waste them when the timer expires. I personally will because that's nasty, but do yourself a favor, just order a fresh fish or buttermilk sandwich. It's 4 minutes for the fish and 6 for the chicken. It'll be worth it. Story 79. Friend of mine works at a pizza chain. Gluten-free pizza is what he says people shouldn't order. In short, it isn't possible to keep it from getting exposed to gluten. Actually, it is generally covered with it, as it comes down the same prep area, completely covered in flour, so if you actually have celiacs, ordering this would likely trigger it. That said, most who order garbage like that don't actually have a gluten allergy, but are just self-diagnosed. Facebook idiots. Story 80. I trained at Olive Garden for 2 weeks. The servers are the ones that make the salads and pour your soups into the bowls, and we were not told to wash our hands or anything like that. Also, if the silverware that went with your soup looked dirty, I was told to just wipe it on the little towel thing that hung at our waists. I quit and can no longer eat at Olive Garden. Story 81, ex-McSlave. When we say the ice cream machine is broken, it really is. It's because it's kept up with so poorly. It's not cleaned when it's supposed to, and it automatically goes into a cleaning mode if you haven't cleaned it in exactly the last week. Once it goes into this mode, it's practically locked out of making ice cream. A lot of times, it isn't cleaned properly, and the method of cleaning it is cheated. So don't get the ice cream because it's gross and dirty. Story 82. Used to work at Bob Evans. Not fast food, but let me tell you, there is no difference. Everything comes in a package, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the problem was nothing was ever out of the package raw. It was always pre-cooked to an extent, and our chefs would essentially just heat it up on the stove. On many occasions, I saw our chef stick pre-packaged turkey into the microwave and then plate it right after, without it even touching the stove. The mac and cheese, especially, was prepared like this. Oh, and those eggs you get, cracked the day before and stashed next to the salad dressing. Hell, I've worked at McDonald's, and honest to God, the food there is fresher than anything you can get at Bob Evans. Story 83. Old Smashburger worker. If you're a vegetarian, do not order anything. Almost everything, including fries, pickles, black bean burgers, are cooked in the beef burger leftover oils, so almost nothing is actually vegetarian besides drinks. It's hella shady, and not many of the employees, FOH themselves, know it's not vegetarian. I personally am not vegetarian, but it just made me feel gross to sell a black bean burger to someone who came off as such.
Story 84. Worked at Dunkin' Donuts for 3 years. The bagels and muffins are shipped to us as frozen dough that we pull out the day before to thaw overnight in the fridge so they can be baked in the morning before opening. The donuts are also delivered every morning at like 4 a.m. and sit out all day before being thrown out each night. I didn't find anything wrong with them. I just want you all to know that nothing is freshly baked. Also, the eggs are frozen hockey pucks, and so are the sausages. Please also don't order any hot sandwiches which contain a glazed donut as the bread. We had that special for maybe a month, and I'm pretty sure only one customer bought it. I think it was a bacon, egg, and cheese between a glazed donut. It was disgusting, and a disgusting amount of calories. Story 85. Worked for Domino's for a while. Food is generally disgusting and of poor quality, but it's cheap pizza, so whatever. The bad thing every location I've worked at does what's called picking the pits. Basically, we have pits under where we put the toppings on the pizza, and every once in a while someone has to pull them out and pick out the toppings, so we can reuse them. It can be hard to distinguish between different foods. I'm shocked. Domino's hasn't been hit by a lawsuit for causing a food allergy to flare up due to this. Also, the rules say you're supposed to change cooking utensils every 4 hours, but no one ever does.
Story 86. At Logan's Steakhouse, if a steak got dropped, we would just give it a quick rinse and continue like nothing happened. This was the management that pushed this. I got yelled at for throwing a ribeye out that I had dropped. I thought the boss was yelling at me for dropping it. We don't waste meat here. Followed by, get it out, trash can, and cook it. Meat gets dropped often and then served. Our floor was gross. Story 87. Worked at Sonic in 2007 for 2 months. They rarely cleaned the pumps. Definitely not the soda nozzles. They had ants in everything. In the strawberries, on the bananas, and blast additives. And my manager, 23-year-old dude, told me to scrape mold off of a new batch of strawberries because he didn't want to do the paperwork on disposing of them. Sometimes, they'd climb into the giant ice freezer for shits and giggles. Another guy there had ducking nasty-ass, druggy oil/dirt-caked hands and would pull cherries out, squeeze lemons and limes, without gloves or utensils. On the flip, though, Cracker Barrel is held to extremely high standards. In my 6 months, I saw maybe a fly. Story 88. A little late to the show, and not necessarily fast food. But as a bartender who has worked at multiple tiki and dock bars, always check to see what kind of pour spouts the bar uses on their alcohol bottles, and if there's any method of covering the openings of said spouts. The metal pour spouts are the most bartender-friendly, but are also the absolute worst to keep bugs from flying or crawling into those liquor bottles. Flies love getting into those sweet-flavored liquors, and if there's a careless bartender working during a rush, he or she will not take the time to check the inside of the bottle to see if there are any dead insects floating around. One of the bars I was working in didn't require bartenders to cover bottles with a plastic shot cup, which is common in many bars as a closing procedure. During my open, I checked to see how many of these bottles had poor little dead critters floating around. Turns out I had to throw away about 12 different bottles of liquor. The sweet tea vodka probably had about 1/4 of an inch of drowned insects floating in the bottom of the bottle. My barback and manager weren't too happy with me doing that, which made me realize I should probably look for a different job location. Story 89. Worked at Chipotle a few summers ago. Nothing is fresh. It's all been sitting for hours, except for maybe the chicken during peak hours, since it's most popular. But the beans sit there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. if it's slow. They just change the pan every few hours to get rid of the bean crust. Story 90. KFC coleslaw. My Nana used to work in the processing plant where the vegetables would go along the conveyor belt and into the shredder. She saw multiple snails, slugs, and other bugs go into the mixer. Story 91. As a restaurant worker, this is a message for everyone. The restaurant is not your pantry. Just because we have all the ingredients for something you want doesn't mean we're so inclined to make it. All the cooks know how to make the menu. They've made thousands of the same item over and over. They know it with their eyes closed. A person who has been working at the restaurant for a week will work the line faster than Gordon Ramsay himself if it's his first day there, I can guarantee you. So when you order a grilled cheese sandwich on white bread with tomato and onion in it when it's not on our menu, you're slowing down service for everyone. You're throwing the cooks for a loop, and you're making everyone's order behind you slowed by several minutes, which is hard to recover from when it's rush hour and the cooks have to read the ticket through over several times to make sure they got everything correct, which is several minutes cumulatively away from their station, not to mention the several minutes of them going, "Where's the white bread?" and looking for it while they scramble around asking the front of the house, "Wait, did they want the onions on top or inside?" Because they're from a country where they don't really eat grilled cheese sandwiches, and before you know it, everyone's food is taking 30 minutes because your ditch vegetarian wife didn't like what we had on the menu. As an aside, you know you're going to have a bad time when the father or mother orders something really complicated. Story 92. I used to work at Culver's. Do not order any concrete with Twix in it. Blending a concrete with those Duckers mixed in it will shred right through our cheap-ass plastic. And at my Culver's, at least, my coworkers would just wipe off the cup to temporarily hide the crack and serve it anyways. Replies, "Ooh, sounds like the time I ordered an Oreo McFlurry at McDonald's. I guess they pressed the cup too close to the mixer so the bottom of the cup had a hole in it. I didn't notice till I was a block from my house. They put a second cup over the bottom, but LOL, a fair warning would have been nice." Story 93. I worked at a Raising Cane's one summer and always get your food to go. Those trays are washed by hand in a sink, and when I say washed, I mean quickly dunked in some brown soapy water. At least they were at the store I worked at, and considering we were a fairly new store and one of the busiest in the region, I'd imagine it's the same elsewhere. Seriously, I would get yelled at for cleaning the dishes too well or changing the water when it was necessary. I'm pretty sure one time I could have made a full batch of coleslaw with all of the cabbage floating in the wash sink, but no. Changing the water takes too much time, apparently. Also, it's easy to overfill the amount of fries you get in the clamshells compared to the trays. At least it felt easier. It's also easier for the workers to make. It's really a win-win. Story 94. Not fast food, worked at Golden Corral, Great American Restaurants, and Red Lobster, but I would recommend asking for a glass of hot water for your silverware wherever you go. I've seen many servers and hostesses clear the dirty plates in the trash before giving them to the dishwasher, and then they don't wash their hands because they feel like they're too busy to do so. So imagine someone grabbing someone's used utensils off their plates and their straws out of the cups before grabbing clean utensils for you. If you're allergic to anything at Red Lobster, just don't eat there. In a rush, servers and cooks spill stuff into other stuff all the time, cross-contamination for days. Also, look at your cup before you drink at Red Lobster. The cups were dirty a lot, and the servers wouldn't care to look for a clean one after the first two they checked weren't clean, or at least use a straw. After adding some ice and liquid in there, it's hard to tell. Honestly, I've worked at 3 sit-down restaurants that appear to be nice and clean, but the servers and managers all have a bad habit of being too busy to wash their hands after taking out trash, clearing plates, and before they touch your food, and they do not always wear gloves. All of the dessert at Red Lobster is pre-made/packaged and heated up in the microwave. The amount of butter added to food is outrageous, so if you care about your arteries, then ask for no butter and go easy on the biscuits. Also, my manager at Golden Corral made us keep the receipts customers left on the table to fill out the surveys to inflate our numbers. It appeared we were the highest-ranked Golden Corral in the area, but it's all a lie. Our jobs were threatened when we didn't do it for a while, and our ranking dropped to its accurate position.
Story 95. Former fast food service industry worker here. Wendy's. Their beef comes frozen in boxes. Don't let the commercials fool you. It's not fresh by any means. Don't order the chili. It's made from patties that were on incorrectly made sandwiches or just left on the grill for too long. At least, at the one I worked at. The baked potatoes would sit in little packing crates on the floor. Some of them managed to stay wrapped in foil, but some would come unwrapped at the bottom and touch the floor with the dirty mop water from people's nasty shoes through the holes in the crate. If someone asked for fresh fries, usually people would just put the fries that had been sitting in the basket back down in the fryer to make them hot again. Almost every person who walked by the fry station would put salt on the fries, even if they had already been salted. The frosty machine was rarely ever cleaned. Soda fountain nozzles were just put in a bucket of water for a few minutes. Never saw them scrubbed. Story 96. Former KFC worker here. The gravy, the secret ingredient, is salt and a microwave. Also the salad, for God's sake. If you want a salad, do not go to KFC.
Story 97. Former Wawa manager here. Had to fire quite a few people due to improper handling of food in the deli area. Not properly cleaning knives, cutting boards. Purposely ignoring food codes to extend times and reduce waste. Think 18-hour-old chicken/tuna/egg salad. purposely extending codes on drink ingredients. Think smoothie base that went bad 3 weeks ago, not cleaning the soda nozzles. I've had my deli manager attempt to hide the fact that our plumbing was backing up into the deli, literal sewage backing up into our food service area, and she thought she could manage it with a mop and air freshener. Grease trap under parking lot was clogged and backed up into the store. We've used a rethermalizer for our hot food items to bring them from frozen to serving temp. Whenever there was a hole in the bag of food, difficult to find when frozen, the water from the rethermalizer would seep into the bag and dilute the product. Imagine water that is heated at all times, changed once a week, and has had everything from mac and cheese, meatballs, 8 different kinds of soup, and numerous other foodstuffs leaked into it. Now, combine that water with what you want to eat. Not too good. This is typically what would happen when I would be moved to a new store. Overall, Wawa is a quality establishment, though I think their quality of food has gone down. But there are always lazy workers who ruin it for everyone else. Story 98. I used to work at Whataburger, pretty good standards, and patties are never frozen. All chicken is frozen, and so are the grilled veggies. Not the normal veggies, though, of course. All patties are dropped on the grill to order. There is actually a camera, and for each person you see walk through the door, you drop 2 patties before they even order. Only complaint is that the grill scraper never got cleaned. But I mean, it's a grill scraper. Don't order onion rings or grilled chicken sandwich, because they both suck to make LOL.